Shadow Binders is back in stock on shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. And now on with the show. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
We're going to talk about the movie industry.
Yay.
It's over. It's over. Movies are over. They are, according to former Paramount and Fox CEO Barry Diller, who's actually got quite the resume. But he said that streaming has killed movies. That it's never going to be the same. We're talking about box office numbers. Now, we haven't seen Black Widow yet, so we'll avoid talking about it until we see it.
Right, but we're already seeing Rotten Tomatoes, and there's like some flags there.
A little bit. I know some people on Twitter have said that they went and the theaters were not very full. So things are never going to go back to where they were. We're not going to see these $300 million ridiculous Marvel openings ever again. I don't know if it keeps going that they're releasing it at Disney Plus at the same time or whatever, because people aren't gonna, if you have an option to go to theater or not, some people will always take the theater, but a lot of people would rather stay home. I'm one of the ones that would rather stay home. Neon's one of the ones who'd rather go to the theater. So I do. I like movies. Well, we'll talk about that. I actually do like going to the theater. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 206,000.
Yay! I think we're gonna hit 207 sometime in the next day or two too.
Okay.
Yay!
Cool.
Thank you.
More people watching us than going to the movies, I guess. I don't
think that, but okay.
I saw this come in last night. I thought it was interesting because there's been a lot of talk about, the box office coming back bigger than ever. Quiet Place 2 did really well. AMC stock soared. I think there were other things going on. I made some money. I cashed out.
You did? Yeah. Well, I told you to.
You did.
Because I was following the news and I said, I think it's going to go down. You need to get out. And you did. And if you hadn't listened to me, you would have lost money.
That's true. I was like, hey, that AMC stock that I bought a while ago that I completely forgot about is worth a ton of money now. So I'm just going to cash out. And I'm going to go buy some other stock. Mm-hmm. That's what I did. Anyway. So this guy is coming out and saying, hey, movies are over. It's over, man. Game over. And, this is kind of sad. Squid King and I went to the local theater the other day. We actually have a dollar theater.
It's not dollar. It's pretty much the same price.
A $6 theater. $7, might even be $7.
Well, now they're starting to get releases pretty quick from the time they're released. They used to wait. You have to wait a month or two. But now it's like they're getting them as fast as the other theaters around here.
But this theater is actually in a community center, and it benefits the community, and it's been around as long as we've been here, and the pandemic has, I believe, irreparably damaged that. People aren't coming back. They reopened the theater. Now, granted, the movie they're playing, I think, is Peter Rabbit or something.
Well, the theater never was, it was busy on some movies, but it was never like, oh my gosh, you couldn't find a seat. Being fair. But you went in and it was depressing, you said. It was depressing,
because I talked to the guy in charge, and he was, because we talked about volunteering, because they look for volunteers, and it is part of a community center, so they look for volunteers.
We tried to community things.
Yeah, believe it or not, and they were looking for people to run concession stands and stuff like that. And I went in and I'm like, hey, we want to volunteer. We want to see the theater come back. We love this place, and do what we can do. And he was like, yeah, I don't know if we're coming back. He said that, we've got to have enough filled seats to pay for the licensing for the movies. And he said it's creeping up. They had to, just a couple of years ago, do a fundraiser to get digital projector. And it was like $75,000 or $100,000 or something, because they couldn't get new releases otherwise, because everything was digital. And a lot of theaters, unfortunately, I think there was a resurgence, but I don't know if they're ever going to come back like they were.
Right. So I guess what he's saying is the movie business model as it has been.
Yes.
Is over. It's kind of misleading, but basically it's the business model that has been the established one for years, maybe over because things are changing.
Yeah. And Disney at this point, they were instituting some pretty Gestapo strong arm techniques against the theaters with Star Wars movies, and you have to keep it in theater this long, whatever.
And they're taking a bigger cut.
And now they don't even care. They're just like, oh, we'll just drop it on Disney Plus same day as the theater. And what are you going to do? You're going to go hire a babysitter? They get all the money. It's kind of like, look at the paradigm shift with selling comics. People are doing crowdfunders and you're selling comics direct to consumer. So the creators are actually pocketing more money than if you go through distribution channel and store.
They take their cut.
Right. So you can sell fewer books and actually make more money. And it's the same with movies. You can have fewer people watching the movie, but actually make more money because you don't have to share. And the theaters were just kind of, and Disney was like, oh yeah, we love you guys. You really, we do. Just, you're going to have to kick everybody else out of the theater and just run our movies. So they bent over backwards for Disney, and Disney's like, yeah, you know what? We don't need you anymore.
You know what's going to be funny too? They're probably going to, not funny, haha, but ironic. They'll probably turn to the theaters and be like, hey, we're taking a bigger cut now too.
Probably.
It's like, if you want any cut at all, you're going to do what we want.
Anyway, let's talk about this guy, Barry Diller. This is on the Wrap. Mogul also ripped streaming services as some weird algorithmic process that has created things that last 100 minutes or so. Because even Netflix, they pick these shows up and they drop them within a season. Like, The Stick, did we get enough watch time? Nope. How much did it cost? Yeah, we're done.
One thing I do like about overseas, like, in Korea and stuff on their shows, a lot of times they're just like one season. And it's like, you get a story told and then that's it.
Yeah.
And because sometimes I think what happens over here is they just milk it for as much as it's worth. And sometimes, a show should be on multiple seasons and it's a good show and and I do like that model for here. But there's also some stories that you're just like, oh, this could have been wrapped up in like one season. Why are we still going on about it?
Yeah. Yeah. So here we go. Barry Diller, longtime Hollywood veteran and former CEO of both Paramount and Fox. So this guy's got, the cred, said the movie business as he once knew it is over.
No, I agree with that.
In a new interview with NPR at the Sun Valley Conference in Idaho, Diller said the rise of streamers and corporate conglomerates have drastically altered the industry, and the urge to create movies that will have lasting, sustaining cultural value is finished.
Right, because now it's about quantity, not quality.
Well, look at Quentin Tarantino. He said that Hollywood's all about ideology and not art. They're not making movies anymore to tell a story. They're making movies.
You're only allowed to tell certain stories.
Right.
Certain characters and certain people.
Have to have a certain quota of this kind of person or that kind of person. So, you're not going to see the Grapes of Wrath again because it's...
why would you want to? But
frankly, too white. I'm just saying. Like,
I don't
it's
know why
not...
you'd want to. But,
it's not going to happen. Diller argued that the definition of movies itself is in such flux that it doesn't mean anything right now. He also took a swipe at streaming services, bemoaning how many original streaming titles get big numbers but seem to be virtually forgotten and buried after they debut.
That's not untrue.
That's not. People are like, oh my God, this is the biggest thing on Netflix right now. And like 6 weeks later, you're like, what was that show called again? Yeah, I don't remember.
That's something to stay with you, but it's not completely untrue. And then, they're movies, things that would have been self-contained movies, 10 years ago are now things that they've broken into like 20 episodes for a show, and stuff like that. So
these streaming services have been making something that they call movies. He said, they ain't I love this guy. They ain't movies. There's some weird algorithmic process that created things that last 100 minutes or so. Diller added that Quibi, the now defunct streaming platform founded by his former protege, Jeffrey Katzenberg, was just a bad idea in terms of why its brief 10-minute shows failed.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that didn't do well.
It's called YouTube.
Yeah.
Let's
be honest.
I never understood Quibi, whatever. Like, what is it? What is it?
It's bite-sized chunks of entertainment.
Yeah, so is every video platform out there. So is TikTok, so is YouTube. It was a bad idea that had no testing ground other than a big-scale investment. Otherwise, it would have slithered around for a while, but was such a big-scale thing that lived and died in a millisecond, has no relevance. The idea of professional A-quality 10-minute or less stuff just made no sense. Diller was behind iconic films like Saturday Night Fever, Taxi, Cheers.
Well, he's not exactly, up to date.
Grease and many more. Well, this is before he became the CEO, right? He has almost zero interest in the movie business as it stands today and would prefer to continue turning his attention to Broadway.
Here's the thing. I don't completely think... I think he's going to the extreme in his commentary. I'm not going to lie. I think he's being ridiculous a little bit.
Get off of my lawn, YouTube and Netflix.
I don't think he's completely wrong. I think he's taking his points too far. I do think that, the way that it's been for decades is not the way it's going to be anymore. We're hearing like with celebrities, even for like the MCU, they used to assign them for multi-picture deals. They're not doing that now. It's case by case basis about how many films you get signed for. And just Hollywood in general. They're like, it used to be the studio was stuck with you, they had to buy you out, like what happened with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Where if they just sign you for one or two, they're not, they're not tied up. You're not tied up. You don't have to pay them a shit ton of money if something bad happens because all your dirty laundry comes out on social media anymore.
Yeah.
I think just the way everything's being done in general. I don't think every show or every movie is going to be forgotten just because it's on streaming service. There are some good things on there. I think he's being extremist a bit, but I don't 100% think he's completely wrong.
No, I mean, he even said it was the movie business as we knew it. But I mean,
the business model is what he said.
Right. And that's everything. Digital has changed everything. And we were talking earlier about comics. It's the same thing. Like, as much as I love comic shops, there are fewer and fewer and fewer of them. And a lot of them now have just become kind of vintage pop culture stores because the new stuff doesn't sell. And a lot of the really good stuff that people are coming up with, the creative stuff, it's going to crowdfunding.
And the thing is, I think people too, because they're so used to getting it now, like this, you have the attention span of a gnat. It's just like, I want it now. So that's why they're going for quantity over quality, because it used to be like they'd spend years working on one film and it would be some groundbreaking, amazing film, and it would come out and you'd be like, holy shit, that was awesome. And now they're just like, give them a little bit of awesome, but give them a lot more of, give them lots of episodes of it, and so you're not getting as much or as impressive things, but you're getting a whole bunch of it. So I gotta watch another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's almost overwhelming. Like, we have all these streaming services, and I get to the point where when I actually have time to sit down to watch something, which isn't, other than a review, we don't have a lot of free time to watch stuff. I don't even know where to start. Like, it's not like back in the day where it's like, oh, there's one big movie release coming out this weekend.
Yeah, they used to only have a few movies a year, and they'd be in the theaters forever. Now it's like
Ghostbusters.
How many releases they have like every other day between the streaming services and the movie theaters. And I think it's just, the movie business as it was is dead. That's not meaning that movies are dead. That's not the same thing.
No, but he's talking the business.
The business model.
Now, about theaters. Now, I like theaters, and I'll tell you a story. When I was, when I first got out my own, when I was a teenager, believe it or not, back in the day, you could actually survive on your own as a teenager. You had to work a lot of hours, and you ate a lot of ramen, but you could do it. I was too poor for a television set. I was too poor for cable. We did have a movie theater down the street. We had a couple movie theaters. We had a dollar theater, and then we had the one at the mall, which was close to where I was. So rather than pay a cable bill every month, buy a TV and all that, I would just every weekend, I would go catch a movie. And I'd go by myself. I know it was sad. I'd go by myself, but a lot of times.
I've gone to movies with myself. I'm not going to say anything.
And I would go matinee. Back then it was like $4, and I would just go watch a movie because it was still cheaper for me to spend. A lot of times I wouldn't get snacks because I couldn't afford them, but I would go see movies. So like for me, like the late '90s was all movie theaters for me. So many movies from that time period, like all the Star Wars special editions and all that stuff. I saw it in the theater. By myself sometimes.
Well, I would go with you now.
I know, but I didn't know you then.
Yeah, so I'll go with you now.
But I love theater because it is a different experience. I mean,
it is different, but the thing is, the way it's been set up now, with the streaming services, and then because of the pandemic, I don't think it's going to come back. A lot of people are like saying, "Oh yeah, it's going to come back. The movie theaters are going to be where it's at again." And, I don't know if it is. People got used to being able to stay home and binge stuff. They, watch a movie on Disney Plus or HBO Max, and not have to go to the damn theater. So you have to go to the bathroom. You just pause it and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay all that money for snacks when you can go to Walmart and buy a couple of dollar boxes of movie theater candy and, sit there and watch it. And you can have 10 people over for the same price. HBO Max is not for free, but like Disney Plus, they have their premiere access. It's $30 usually. Well, you can have as many people you want in there for that. So just, get your friends and family come over. Everybody can watch it for one price.
How is it any different than pay-per-view? And
people thought they were going to do that with pay-per-view years ago. They thought that they were just going to switch the movie theater model because they've been able to for a while and they just haven't. And it was because of, agreements that were in place and, that kind of stuff. And everybody threw everybody under the bus. It's like, everybody for themselves as soon as pandemic hit.
I know, right? It's like, you kids today don't know how good you have it. Yeah, because back in the day, even on VHS, it would take like a year or two. Mm-hmm. I remember E.T. came out on VHS, and it was like years after it was in the theater. And you could actually, it was actually affordable because back then the only people buying VHS were rental stores, and they were hundreds of dollars for a tape. I mean, it's hard to imagine, but it was. So to have E.T. come out, and I remember it was like $25 or something like that. Like you could afford it, but it came out like 87 or 88 or I forget when. Then Batman was the first big movie, the original Batman, that came out like 6 months after it was in the theater. And that was a huge deal. Like, oh my God, I remember seeing a sign for it at the record store. Remember those? The record store. Batman's coming out in like December. I'm like, bullshit. I just saw it last week. It's not coming out in December. You're lying. It took E.T. 5 years to come out. You're lying. No, you can pre-order Batman for like $20. I'm like, you're lying. And sure enough, Batman came out and I bought it.
So this is constantly changing, but business models have to change to adapt. I just don't think it's as doom and gloom as he's saying, but it's definitely not going to be the same.
No, and I think we're going to have, instead of having like one big release and these huge stars, it's kind of like pop culture in general has been piecemeal. We're not all watching the same shows. You're not going to have that anymore where everybody's watching Cheers, everybody's watching I Love Lucy, everybody's watching Friends, because now there's so much stuff out there. You've got smaller audiences watching a whole bunch of different stuff. So everybody's
YouTube's kicking all their asses.
Yeah,
anyway,
YouTube's kicking their asses. So gonna wrap this up.
Yep.
All right. So please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.